2018 Beijing summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation held last week with Chinese President Xi Jinping calling for the building of a China-Africa community with a shared future that assumes joint responsibility and pursues win-win cooperation.
Yeah, Xi said China will strengthen exchange and cooperation with Africa on climate change, clean energy, prevention and control of desertification and soil erosion, as well as protection of wild animals and plants. Xi announced China will extend a total of $60 billion of financing to Africa in the form of government assistance, as well as investment and financing by financial institutions and companies.
Nigeria is one of the countries keying into business deals and transactions with China. The country has taken billions of dollars in loan from the country for infrastructure. But what other ways can Nigeria benefit from its relationship with China? I guess that really should be our first question to our guest as a public affairs commentator, Chukwumoko, right here. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Nice to see you.
You know you're a bit under the weather. You just told us that, but I'm sure you're managing.
Manage.
Okay. I was really going to start with that last part of our intro. You know how Nigeria can actually take advantage of this China relationship with China, but former Education Minister Obieze Kwesili believes that the agreements between China and Nigeria actually are a very bad deal that Nigeria should not even contemplate touching.
I haven't seen that agreement. I didn't even bother because what I think that we should do is look at the premier, you know, listen to him, you know, watch his body language and all that. I think that Nigeria has already benefited, or Africa has, you know, benefited immensely from our relation with China. My worry is that there's a flip side to it, and you need a strong, physical, intelligent person to be able to deal with this China business. You need to have those key elements. You got to be very strong. You need to be discerning. You need to be able to read their body language. How do you pay this debt that you're piling? You remember that after the MDG protocol, Nigeria and Iraq were the only nations on earth that managed to get out of the debt burden.
Yes.
Obasanjo fought very hard to. Now we're back there. But particularly concerning China, Tuesday and early this morning, another conference has been on in China, Eastern Economic Forum, Putin and a few other nations within the Asian bloc are having a meeting and all that. And if you listen to the presentation, the bilateral agreement that they are discussing, it's completely different. Nobody's handing over stipends or money to anybody. They're concerned about connecting that region to Europe by road, by rail, by, you know, so that the two blocks can do business. For Africa, I think for me, like I said in my opening remark, I believe we have gained a lot. You know, many months ago, around 2014, former President Jonathan went to China also with a large number of entourage. And when I came here, I asked one very important question. I asked, what did they go with? Did they go with a laptop? Did they go with a phone? Would they go with camera to be able to capture some of the developments that are going on there? I'm worried, apart from the benefits, which I don't, I can't begin to list here. But I'm worried about China's dealing with Africa. I have also been here and I told you that the presence of China in Africa, and particularly in Sudan, I'm not a security expert, but I have very strong belief that our African leaders have not bothered to ask, is that presence that China has in Sudan, is it fueling the crisis in Chad, in Niger, that is filtrating into Nigeria and causing the mayhem, the Boko Haram, whatever? Because China has never had respect for human rights. So when the current president of Sudan was sanctioned by United Nations, till tomorrow, China does not see any reason why. In fact, China threatened to veto the decision of the United Nations.
As a matter of fact, Omar al-Bashir was at this meeting.
Absolutely. It has to be in that meeting because he's been ostracized. But with China in that region,
he's welcome.
Two things are going on in Africa that China is interested in: oil and blood. Our brothers in South Sudan,
that's a strong one.
Killed.
Oil and blood.
Two things. Any writer who knows about African affairs will tell you two things that they've been harvesting. Look, the amount of investment that China has in Sudan is unprecedented. Then you have all the military wares, ammunitions, and all that. And so when I see these herdsmen and all the things that's going on, look, do you know where Sudan is? That's where China is domiciled. They have their warship and all of that right on the sea of Sudan. Wow. Permanently situated in that place where they are taking this oil, but at a very high cost. So when I saw our African leaders go over to that place, and because I had Putin this morning reply, make a presentation, I didn't really hear our African leaders make a viable presentation. Questioning some of the things that are going on.
Yeah, but someone would also say that the same China warship, wherever in Sudan or anywhere in part of the world, is almost the same thing America has, the warships stationed across strategic places across the world. Now, the West has had the issue of colonialism, which Africa, went through for so many years, about a century plus, and all of that. It was what Africa will never forget for the rest of its life. So, if Africa suffered that under the West, why is China different? Those are the questions everybody is asking.
You must understand why China is become a subject.
Okay.
America, in their arrogance and all that, in fact, particularly with al-Bashir of Sudan, they stopped buying oil, and as soon as that happened, China moved in. Now, the conference that they had...
Haven't they stopped buying our oil too?
No, they stopped buying our oil because of all the politics that is surrounding whatever. So China saw...
But they found their shale oil in their own...
China saw the opportunity and they get back into Africa. Now, but don't forget that conference that they had, in 1884, or is it 1885, the date has been distorted. While I was in school, we were told it was 1886. These guys gathered in
the Berlin
Germany,
Conference?
the Berlin Conference, gathered to regulate slave trade and regulate the way the West was doing business in Africa, particularly in West Africa.
Yeah.
Who is going to regulate the way China is doing business? Now, if you go around Lagos, you see the presence of Chinese people. That's where I said to you in my opening remark that I love the fact that there are some things they are bringing to the table. Because you see them showing us example how to be entrepreneurial. They're not into fashion, the way they're sneakers and all that. Once they see something like this from you, they take the picture, they go into our Okare market and all that. They cut all the materials we have there, put it inside an envelope. Watch them. Go and ask the Korea companies. The number of Chinese people who are sending things back to China and Beijing, you can't believe it. And the Korea companies are making a hell of money from them. Because everything that we have here, that our youths and all of us have ignored, they see the opportunity. So what usually happens is if you travel abroad and you're coming back, you are likely going to be sitting in a plane with a Chinese man who is leaving China for the first time. The brothers have been here for a while, so they invite him. He comes in empty-handed. You can be very sure that years after, in fact, one of my neighbors on Baby, the place that he rented directly under my office, he's there with his wife. He won't even take light from our means. He has his own very unique generator and order. They don't have, when we see them, because they are white or whatever it is, we roll out our red carpets. But even here, in our own country, they discriminate against us, discriminate the few people that they employ that are Nigerians. But you know what? You have to give it to them. They are deal makers. When they are rent, ask landlords in Lagos, when they come and rent a house from you, they are not talking about 1 year or 2 years. They are discussing 10 years. They're discussing 15 years.
And they give you the money.
And the landlord will think that he's getting so much. They will negotiate. So
back to the issue of this debt that the loan we're taking, $382 million for,
how are we going to pay it?
For the National and communication technology infrastructure backbone phase 2.
And
of course, I read in the papers yesterday that the transportation minister, Rotimi Amechi, was like, look, we have no choice than to fall back on China for a $6 billion loan to finance the rail system and all of that. But then again, the issue that Obieza Kwesili has raised, let me go back to what she said, that Chinese attitude to indebtedness is the hardest in the world.
I mean, maybe your leaders don't know that yet. But what will happen is that they will mortgage. You know, when you were introducing this topic, you talked about the premier talking about shared future. I don't see it because of their attitude towards us. This morning, bilateral agreement has been entered early this morning. They are ahead of us. They got into an agreement with Russia. On communication, on broadcasting and all that and all that. Nobody's handing out anything.
Like an agreement between equals.
Absolutely.
And not one.
Equals, yes.
Yeah,
but we received this thing, and I do not see how we're going to have a shared future with a country that is so developed like China, whose interests, and you know, since the year 1999, the year 2000 or thereabout, Africa became what you can call a market. So when the Americans didn't allow their arrogance and their pride to make them make the decisions, and you know, I heard the president saying that Trump was asking for it. Of course, yes. So they abandoned us here. Obama came here soon after he became whatever. He didn't even come to Nigeria. So that arrogance is what this man, who is a who is using economic diplomacy to do these things, he's been busy since after that African conference.
Very busy.
He just finished one this morning. They've had a conference between Tuesday and on Wednesday. They're signing deals. It's look, if you go to China and you find out why they are succeeding and all that, they have research institutions. They have economics who have received Nobel Prize, who have this masterpiece economic booklet that they are following. This man.
So there's a template.
There's a strategy.
And you know, in the China Development Council, they have 35 departments. You won't believe China-African policy is there. China world policy is there.
China-US and what have you.
China-US. These guys are young. They are working and producing strategic escalations of what to do to conquer the world. Look, Africa
really, can we even look back since the 70s? I mean, this China-Nigeria relationship has been on for over 40 years, you know, more or less.
Absolutely.
How are we able to even look back and say, look, these are what we have benefited from our relationship with China? That is a pointer to
you can't benefit
what
anything
lies
when they are
ahead.
constantly handing you over. Because you see, what they have done is that they have done cultural diplomacy. Now it's economic diplomacy. I don't think they've done much with education diplomacy, but they've done that with Russia, with America and all that. If you send your children abroad to go to school, the likelihood that they will tell you they're going to Japan or China for exchange program is very high. So I don't know. We haven't done that. I don't think so. Now, when somebody is constantly handing you over, he does not respect you like he respects the man that he's equal with.
Yeah, true.
So how we are going to get out of this debt and all that? But Amechi, he has a point, because even the roads and the rails that they are building, who are the people building it?
It's the Chinese.
Exactly.
And even with this $6 billion loan, with this $6 billion loan, the Chinese are saying, no, this is the line that we want.
Don't you have
they're even telling
engineers
us
in
which
Nigeria?
one
Don't you
they'll
have
build?
engineering department in Unilag, in Ibadan, in all these universities?
Yeah.
But you know what? Let me give you a task to do for me. You know, when you, at your free time, go to Unilag, go and talk to law students who are in school or engineering students. Ask them what you want to do. Even from year one, when you graduate and all that, they will tell you they want to work in PhD and all that. So we have universities here who are producing graduates, but they bring their people, because it's not just graduates that they're producing, they're bringing people who are skilled, who are committed. The Chinese does not, before you and I, the Chinese man does not call himself Mandarin or whatever. They see themselves, but here, Ngozi has a name that identifies where she comes from. And it's from that prison. So by the time you go to get a job in one of Nigerian research institutions, you might have returned from the US. You just go there and sit down to die there. So nothing is going on. But You have research institutions in China, development institutions in China, whose job is to produce things that they can use to do this thing that they are doing.
Yeah.
Documents that can drive their economy. Look, China population by 2016 is 1.4 billion. They are looking for places to go, and Africa is home. So when all these politics with the United Nations concerning Israel, concerning whatever, America just moved to Saudi Arabia. So they're getting enough oil there, but Trump is still interested in what we have here. But so you must always remember that it's about the oil. But what Chinese has done is that they are killing our own people, fueling crisis. Let me raise an alarm also. Now, when you take the map of Nigeria, you see Sudan. Sudan does not share boundary with us, but they share with Niger Republic.
Yes.
You know what? Niger Republic sits on the Horn of Africa, sits right on top of Nigeria. They share boundary with us. So, and the issue here is that the crisis in Lake Chad, nobody is addressing it. So when they went for that conference, I was hoping to hear them say, this thing that is going on here, that we're involved in that place.
How can we?
How can we resolve it? So it was not a meeting of
Yeah,
equals.
but Nigeria, on the other hand, we used to know that Nigeria had lots of influence among African countries, and like it said, Africa is the centerpiece of Nigeria foreign policy. Is it still the centerpiece of Nigeria foreign policy?
Maybe
because
in
right now, when Nigeria goes into some of these summits, it goes just as one country. It doesn't go with Africa in mind and all the strategy and all of that.
Right. The other day they were having a problem in Gambia. It wasn't not Nigeria that went to. That's even political and more stronger, prism to push our diplomacy. But you know what? Since 1999, once you elect a president in Nigeria, distractions, quarrels, all kinds of things. They see people sending you text messages. Oh, this one has been nominated to be minister from this zone, our zone. So you have, but in China,
it's all about
it's
China.
fascism. It's either you chip in or you chip out. So they have the concentration. Do they have oil? Where do they get the money that they're dishing out? It's the people. The people are working hard. Look, if you finish this program, walk around Ikeja and all that, you will see a Chinese man with a nylon bag with shorts. It's all those things that me and you do not see. They are seeing it. The Indians are beginning to say that.
And you know what? When you look at the details of this deal between Nigeria and China, you find out that no Nigerian exports, as in terms of finished goods, will find their way into China.
Can never. But
and with a $14 billion trade, volume between the two countries as at 2017,
Absolutely.
you wonder how much of that really is, has paid off for Nigeria. And how much of that is,
I don't
China.
know. That's the problem that Trump is having. You see, the way China is right now is that even the Americans, many years ago, America used to be, a production hub and all that and all. But you see, the labor wahala in America led the American manufacturer and businessman to recognize that, look, it's cost effective for me to go produce my stuff in China. I was on a TV program the other day in your station here. I was sitting with a lecturer who was talking about industrialization. In modern day, you speak enterprise and not industrialization. Because what are you going to be industrializing? Ordinary publishing of book is expensive. So what people do is that you go to China and produce and bring. But I do not think that we should constantly be taking money from China
or anybody for that matter.
All the trouble we are trying to cause for ourselves and our children. By the way,
we have to wrap, unfortunately. We'll have to leave it there.
The China-Nigeria relations is a topic that, or it's a very topical topic that anyone would like to talk about. Chuks Nwoko, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.